What if I told you that the child who defies you, who tests every boundary, who triggers your deepest wounds and pushes you to your absolute limit, is not a punishment or a problem to be fixed, but your most effective spiritual teacher, deliberately assigned by divine intelligence to accelerate your soul's evolution in ways a compliant, easy child never could? What if understanding the single truth could transform your most exhausting parenting struggle into your most powerful spiritual practice within 24 hours without changing your child's behavior, but by radically shifting your consciousness about what that behavior means? This is not positive thinking to make you feel better about a difficult situation, nor is it spiritual bypassing that ignores genuine challenges. It is ancient wisdom revealed through direct perception in deep meditation states. As Paramahansa Yogananda, I have taught for decades that family life is the first spiritual school, that children are karmic assignments, and that the most difficult children often carry the most important lessons. If you are exhausted by a challenging child and ready to understand the hidden spiritual curriculum they are teaching, comment below. I unite with the divine, and my reality transforms. This declaration shifts your consciousness from seeing your child as a problem to recognizing them as your guru in disguise. The suffering parents of difficult children endure stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what difficulty means. You look at your strong-willed, defiant, emotionally intense, or behaviorally challenging child and see your failure as a parent, their failure as a child, perhaps evidence of bad karma or divine punishment. The conventional approach treats difficult children as problems requiring correction through stricter discipline, more consistent consequences, better parenting techniques, or sometimes medication to make them more manageable. Parents exhaust themselves trying method after method, reading book after book, seeking expert after expert, desperately searching for the key that will transform their difficult child into an easy one. Yet despite heroic efforts, the core challenges often remain, and parents spiral into guilt, resentment, exhaustion, even despair. Why does this approach fail to bring peace? Because it operates from the assumption that difficulty equals defect, that the goal is to eliminate challenge, that a good parent should produce a compliant child. But I tell you, this assumption is backwards. Difficult children are not defective. They are advanced spiritual curriculum. They are not punishments, they are opportunities. They have not come to make your life easier, but to make your soul stronger. From my years of spiritual study and direct perception in meditation, I came to understand that souls choose their incarnation circumstances with precision. A highly evolved soul seeking rapid growth may deliberately choose to incarnate with a temperament that creates friction, that resists easy control, that forces everyone around them to develop patience, flexibility, creativity, and unconditional love. These are not easy virtues to develop through comfort. They require the crucible of challenge. Your difficult child may be a very old soul who has agreed before birth to play a challenging role in this lifetime, specifically to serve your evolution and theirs. Consider what your difficult child is teaching you through their behavior. The child who defies every rule is teaching you to discern which rules truly matter and which are merely ego's need for control. The child whose emotions are intense and uncontrollable is teaching you to remain calm in the storm, to be the peaceful center around which chaos can settle. The child who seems immune to punishment is teaching you that external control is an illusion and that true influence comes through love, not force. The child who embarrasses you in public is teaching you to release concern about others' opinions and find your worth internally rather than through social approval. Every difficulty your child presents is a customized lesson addressing precisely the areas where you still need growth. The mechanism by which difficult children serve as spiritual teachers operates through what I call the mirror principle. Children, especially young ones, unconsciously reflect back to parents their own unresolved patterns, unhealed wounds, and unconscious shadows. The child who triggers your rage is showing you rage that already exists within you, perhaps suppressed since your own childhood. The child whose neediness exhausts you is revealing your own unmet needs or perhaps your resistance to vulnerability and dependence. The child who lies to avoid punishment is showing you where you have not created safety for truth-telling or perhaps where you yourself hide authenticity behind acceptable facades. This mirroring is not comfortable. It forces you to see aspects of yourself you might prefer to ignore, but it is profoundly effective for growth. Your subconscious mind, which stores all your unresolved patterns and wounds, recognizes at levels beneath conscious awareness that this child has come to help you heal. Every time you are triggered, every time you lose patience, every time you feel you cannot handle one more difficult moment, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. The question is, will you react unconsciously from old patterns, or will you respond consciously, using the difficulty as fuel for your evolution? I will teach you now a practice that transforms how you experience your difficult child and accelerates both your growth and theirs. Begin each morning before your child wakes with meditation to establish your center in divine consciousness rather than in reactive ego. Sit with spine erect, close your eyes, focus at the spiritual eye between the eyebrows, and practice the Hong Sao technique I have taught to millions. Observe your natural breath without controlling it, mentally repeating Hong on inhalation and Sao on exhalation. I am He, affirming your identity with infinite consciousness that exists before and beyond all parenting challenges. Practice for at least 20 minutes until you touch the peace that does not depend on your child's behavior, the love that flows regardless of their compliance, the strength that remains steady in the face of any difficulty. In that stillness, consciously reframe your understanding of your child. Instead of thinking, this child is so difficult, why can't they be easier? Declare inwardly with feeling, this child is my spiritual teacher. Every challenge they present is a lesson I need to learn. I am grateful for this intensive training. I am becoming patient, becoming wise, becoming unconditionally loving through this relationship. Feel this truth not just intellectually but emotionally. Your subconscious mind, which controls most of your automatic reactions, gradually accepts this new programming, and over time what once triggered immediate frustration begins to trigger curiosity instead. What is this moment teaching me? Throughout your day, when your child's difficult behavior triggers you, when they defy, when they tantrum, when they refuse cooperation, when they push every boundary, pause and practice what I call the sacred question response. Instead of immediately reacting with anger, punishment, or despair, take 3 conscious breaths. With the first breath, acknowledge, I am being triggered. Old patterns want to take over. With the second breath, ask the sacred question, what is my child teaching me right now? What quality am I being invited to develop? Patience, creativity, letting go of control, unconditional love regardless of behavior. With the third breath, choose, I will respond from the lesson, not react from the wound. This practice interrupts unconscious patterns. You may still need to set boundaries, impose consequences, or remove your child from a situation, but your energy shifts from frustrated control to conscious guidance, from personal offense to spiritual opportunity. Your child feels this shift energetically, even if they cannot articulate it, and often their behavior begins to shift in response to your shifted consciousness. Use the sacred state of quietude before sleep, those 60 seconds when your subconscious is extraordinarily receptive to reprogram your fundamental relationship with your child's difficulty. As you lie in bed, bring your difficult child to mind not with resentment but with spiritual understanding. Place your hand on your heart and inwardly declare with feeling, my child is not my burden, but my teacher. Every difficult moment is sacred curriculum. I release all resistance to what this child is teaching me. I command not request, but command from my source authority that I see clearly the lessons being offered. May I develop patience that does not break, love that does not withdraw, wisdom that guides without controlling. I am becoming the parent this child needs, and through their teaching, I am becoming the soul I was meant to be. Visualize your child surrounded by golden light, not as a problem child, but as a courageous soul who has taken on a difficult role to serve your growth. See yourself also in light, growing stronger, wiser, more compassionate through this relationship. Feel gratitude for their service, for their willingness to be misunderstood and labeled difficult, while actually functioning as your guru. These impressions planted nightly in your subconscious during this highly receptive state gradually transform your entire experience of parenting this child from exhausting battle to meaningful practice. Within 24 hours of beginning these practices with sincerity, you will notice shifts in how you experience your child's difficult behavior. Perhaps in a situation that would normally trigger immediate rage, you find yourself pausing, breathing, asking, "What is this teaching me?" before reacting. Maybe you spontaneously see your child's defiance not as personal attack but as their soul's fierce independence expressing itself. And instead of crushing it, you find creative ways to honor it while maintaining necessary boundaries. You might experience unexpected compassion, recognizing that being a difficult child is not easy for them. Either they face constant correction, frequent rejection, endless messages that they are wrong. Or this shift may be subtle but profound, a lightness in your heart when you think of your child, a sense of purpose replacing despair, gratitude emerging where resentment once lived. These shifts indicate you are beginning to work with difficulty consciously rather than being victimized by it unconsciously. Remember that I taught parents never to use harsh punishment or angry words, for these wound the spirit and accomplish nothing lasting. When you understand your difficult child is your teacher, correction comes from love rather than frustration. You set boundaries firmly but kindly. You impose consequences as natural learning opportunities rather than as revenge for offense. You explain with patience why certain behaviors bring suffering while others bring peace. True discipline is not domination of the child's will but awakening of the child's understanding. When your child makes a mistake and you respond with calm explanation rather than angry punishment, you are teaching them that mistakes are part of learning, not crimes requiring severe penalty. This creates the foundation for healthy self-correction rather than shame-based hiding. Your difficult child needs this patient, loving guidance more than an easy child does, because their temperament makes them less responsive to fear-based control. They are teaching you to find a better way to influence them through relationship, through respect, through appealing to their reason and heart, rather than through domination. This is advanced parenting, and you have been assigned an advanced student precisely because your soul is ready for advanced curriculum. Some will ask, but what about children with genuine disorders? ADHD, autism, oppositional defiant disorder. Are we to see these medical conditions as spiritual teachers? Yes, though this requires nuance. A child with neurological differences still functions as spiritual teacher while also needing appropriate support, therapy, or accommodation. The lessons change slightly. Perhaps you are learning radical acceptance of difference, patience with nonlinear progress, advocacy skills, humility about your limitations, trust in divine timing. You serve the child at the practical level with whatever help they need while simultaneously receiving at the spiritual level the teaching they offer. The two perspectives, practical and spiritual, are not contradictory but complementary. You can simultaneously take your child to therapy and recognize them as your guru. You can give medication if needed while also receiving the spiritual gifts they bring. Others will say, this teaching could make parents passive, accepting harmful behavior under the guise of spiritual lessons. No, seeing your child as teacher does not mean abandoning guidance, boundaries, or consequences. It means your energy shifts from punitive to educational, from ego-wounded to soul-centered. You still intervene when behavior is harmful, but from wisdom rather than anger, from love rather than frustration. The child feels the difference. When correction comes from a parent who sees them as teacher rather than problem, who maintains respect even while setting limits, transformation becomes possible. But when correction comes from a parent who sees them as defective, who speaks from exasperation and defeat, the child hardens and behavior worsens. As we conclude, I call you to make this commitment. For the next 30 days, practice morning meditation establishing soul consciousness before engaging with your child. Throughout each day, use the sacred question response when triggered. Pause, ask, what is this teaching me? And choose conscious response over unconscious reaction. Each night before sleep, use the 60-second state of quietude to impress upon your subconscious your gratitude for your child as teacher. Keep a brief journal noting the qualities you are developing through this difficult relationship: patience, creativity, humility, unconditional love. Watch these qualities grow. Comment below, I unite with the divine and my reality transforms to serious commitment. Subscribe and activate notifications to continue receiving teachings that transform parenting struggles into spiritual practices. Share this message with exhausted parents who need to understand their child's deeper purpose. Remember, your difficult child is not your punishment, but your promotion to advanced spiritual study. They have chosen a challenging role to serve your evolution. Every tantrum is teaching, every defiance is developing you, every difficult day is divine curriculum. When you shift from resisting their difficulty to receiving their teaching, everything transforms. May you see your challenging child with new eyes. May you recognize the guru beneath the defiance. And may you discover that the child who pushes you to your limit is actually pushing you toward your liberation.